Coming to Canada, a story from the book Flying with White Eagle, the life and times of Aleph Pat Carey. In December 1908, when my brother Bill was about a month old, we sailed from Liverpool aboard the Empress of Ireland, bound for Halifax. Following 2 days at sea, we had a terrible storm. Mother became very ill and spent most of the time lying in her bunk. At first, we children were not much better off and spent more time on our backs than exploring the huge ship. But towards the end of the second day of the storm, I was beginning to feel a little better. Dad took me up for dinner. When we entered the dining room, dishes were falling to the deck and serving trays were spilling over. We were seated and I was served a thick soup. To keep the strange-shaped bowl, which had a wide flange, from sliding off the table, the waiter put a little wooden fence around it. I must have been getting my sea legs, because I do not remember being seasick after that meal. Once the storm blew itself out and the weather improved, I began to wander around the ship to explore. Eventually I strayed too far by going up some stairs, and a lady asked me where I was from. She hastily brought me back to Mum and Dad. I chuckle to think of a little ragamuffin mixing with all those high-class, imperious la-di-das. After 2 weeks at sea, we docked in Halifax, where we were processed before finally boarding a train for the west. The journey from Halifax to Chilliwack, British Columbia, took about 5 days. Our passenger cars were equipped with hard wooden seats, and the lack of comfort must have made it even more difficult for our parents on such a long journey. As we rattled through the forests of northern Ontario to the muskegs of Manitoba and across the prairies, people spread out on seats and even in the aisles for snatches of sleep. I heard curses in many languages, as short-tempered people were accidentally stepped on by passing passengers and running children. We were surrounded by fellow immigrants speaking many different languages. I vaguely remember a small pot-bellied coal-burning stove at one end of the rail car. Some people heated food in pots and made tea in tin cans on the stove while they huddled around trying to keep warm. I also remember a man in a very colourful shirt and trousers playing a violin, while several men and women sang sad songs in a language I couldn't understand. I knew the songs were sad because they had tears in their voices, and some women wept into their aprons. Smoke from the locomotive blew soot through the cars any time someone opened a door to move from coach to coach. Other smells were of pipe tobacco and so many unwashed bodies. The hopper toilet smelled whenever someone opened the door, despite the fact everything fell directly to the tracks while the train was in motion. I do not remember if the railway supplied toilet paper or not. I do remember finding none, and Father supplying a page of newspaper. I'm sure wealthier passengers must have travelled in more pleasant surroundings.